We are back. Yes, Ebony and Ivory, Mr. All In, aka the Trillion Dollar Man, myself, Sir Neverlook, aka the Excellence of Execution, and surprise, surprise, two surprises. This time there is no Mrs. No Show, aka still Mrs. No Show, but what is going on with Dr. Evil 10%, aka the People's Champ? Because this is another O in his record, right? You know, if you do the attendance record, you used to get the tick or the O.
You were super reliable, but then he got promoted to a real job, didn't he?
Yeah, I heard this, and clearly, when he got the job, he also found his sick notebook.
Yeah. I think he's just really, really tired, bless him. I think he's
Yeah,
having to do like maybe 3 to 4 hours work a day instead of the usual half an hour to an hour. And it's just draining his little soul. So
managing people. You
if he
know,
reports it to Mrs. No Show, and I'm sure, being the head of the ESG, she'll be able to maybe help him out with some mental health coaching or something like that, and maybe get his
there's been
attendance
reports of
record
hair
back up.
loss as well.
Yeah, I'm still praying that on his return, because he hasn't been back for a while,
No,
he does have those luscious locks in Turkey, and this has just been
correct.
a big, long like scam. He's not really ill. He hasn't even been promoted. He's just gone to Turkey, and he's going to come back with Pat Sharp from the Funhouse hair like that.
I actually haven't seen him since as well. So yeah, we don't know. This could be the big reveal.
But anyway, Bitcoin keeps trucking on, doesn't it? TikTok every 10 minutes, new block.
Love it, love it.
And
And yeah, there's been quite a lot. And now obviously we weren't here last week, so we are going to give you a pretty quick but a bumper show of Pod 121. Yes, 121. The bullish Bitcoin banter and bullshit podcast. So let's begin with the big news. Is it big news? Because what I find in Bitcoin news is that it is big news, but then Bitcoin and the world of Twitter, aka X, just moves so fast. It's like, yeah, we're done with that. On to the next thing. But we should never skip over this one. CZ slapped by the US government for $4.3 billion with a personal fine of 50 million. So, wow, this is the number one exchange, or maybe was.
yeah, that's the thing. It's like, obviously it's not technically Bitcoin news, but it's kind of crypto news, and obviously it's exchange news, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, so they were the number one exchange other than probably Coinbase. Um, and yeah, well, like, we've known for years that they've been a little bit like middle finger up to the KYC and AML regulations that have existed in the West. And I was always a bit skeptical of whether they could really be caught. And
Mm.
they seem just to not really care. And when I did look at some of their processes, like I signed up for a Binance account, for example, the process seemed to be compliant from what I could see. It was very similar to signing up to another exchange. So I didn't even know if it was just FUD against Binance, that they were like just flying in the wind of these regulations. But obviously they had a US office and they were onboarding a lot of US customers, which is seemingly been their downfall because yeah, CZ got caught in America, got arrested. Apparently is still there. I think the last I heard he was either in Florida or Miami,
So
so somewhere around there.
I I thought that CZ was it already emigrated because he's originally from Vancouver,
Yeah,
and I thought he was in Dubai.
I think he was living there. Yeah, I think he was living in combination of China and Dubai, but
Hmm.
being he got caught in America. So
Right.
I think to be fair, he got subpoenaed to go there. And I think instead of running, as the CEO of the company, I think he went to answer like their questions,
He
and
did.
in return for that, got fined 4.3 billion as a company, 50 million himself, and had to step down as CEO. And essentially, like I think the bigger like macro look at this is essentially this is the one exchange that was probably previously outside of the US jurisdiction.
Yep.
So did they really have the powers to take a look at all the ins and outs of that company? Could they close accounts? Could they freeze funds and all that type of stuff? Binance was considered no, because it's largely a Chinese exchange, right? The main HQ is in China. So it seemed like whilst it was still risky, because let's not might say China are not friendly towards Bitcoin or crypto. They're just as hostile as America are. Obviously, America like to have their hands in all the different pies, and Binance
Always.
was a bit of a loophole to go, well, actually, there's actually a very legitimate large exchange over here that isn't really playing by the same rules as everyone else is, because they're based in China and there's kind of almost nothing American can do about it. At least that's what we thought.
Mm.
Turns out that is not true at all. And America do have their fingers in those pies now. And CZ is seemingly being held in America for a relatively long period of time, which one can only assume that he's probably been threatened with jail time as well as big fines. But he can dodge the jail time provided he puts certain hooks and APIs from Binance into the US government, so they can just see. They don't need to send requests in and ask for info. They don't need to ask to have accounts frozen. I would suspect they want the ability just to be able to do it from the safety of their own office and just be able to
Yeah.
go, we have an API into Binance. If I want to close XYZ account, I can just click a button, an account frozen. And on the screen at their end, it just says closed by the US government. And so I'd imagine that's what people believes happened. And obviously we've got them all coming out. You've got Janet Yellen coming out and saying this is, a huge win for the US financial system. They must play by the rules. And if anything, that they seem to be using this as they've really got quite confident from this, where they're going, yeah, we're going to keep going. This is the start of a whole wave of new regulation, and we're going to really make sure that people that don't play by the rules are going to feel the full force of the law. And again, I think it's just a bit of a threat to Bitcoin, where they're going, just so we're taking the biggest companies in the space that you're in, we're taking them down, we're co-opting them. So
One by one.
don't try it.
Do you think Brian Armstrong is worried in any way, shape, or form? Because to me, Coinbase has always tried to be, you know, clean and making sure in terms of what they do, even though, of course, they do sell shit coins on their platform. I know for sure Gemini have always tried to take the legislation route as well in terms of making sure that they are on the right side of the law. But do you think this is the start of more to come?
I think they've pretty much got nearly everyone now.
Mm.
I think they're just almost celebrating that they've got almost the full collection of probably large exchanges. And maybe they're just waiting for any others, smaller ones, to rise up, and they'll grab them as well. But yeah, it's they invent these random laws like anti-money laundering and KYC, and they wait for people to break them, right? And it's just because it's not nice to be onboarded like that. It doesn't really make sense, especially when it's meant to be decentralized and you're buying Bitcoin. Obviously, all these things just don't make sense. And there's largely just an acceptance of, oh, but if you want to have a financial service in this space, then you need to comply to the local laws, and I do get it. But if you're based in China, I can understand why they just didn't. But this is a flex of the power. Yeah, this is very obvious, and I've seen like some people sharing like text messages from no coiners and salty mates and stuff where they've gone, SBF got found guilty last week. Now CZ, all your favorite boys are going down. Like, how's your Bitcoin doing? And in reality, like, Bitcoin doesn't care, right? Bitcoin is decentralized. These exchanges are purely a temporary means of buying Bitcoin. There's plenty of places to buy them anonymously, peer to peer. New exchanges will pop up, and if anything, it's just every time the US government like kind of attacks like this, I think it's almost, it just makes Bitcoin stronger because you go, right, okay, we can't play like that. Like having a huge exchange and almost giving them two fingers to go, we ain't playing by the rules, it doesn't work long term, right? They eventually get you, they threaten you with life imprisonment. So you just have to pay huge fines and then just agree to everything they say to keep you and your team out of prison.
Yeah.
So I think, decentralization is the key, peer to peer is the key, and that's going to be the way we're going to need to win. So I think that's the big innovation we're going to need is peer to peer exchanges that work for the masses, because these centralized exchanges, the second they get too good and too popular, you just know you're in the crosshairs of the US government, and they're going to find something, right? Because Coinbase didn't break any of these KYC AML rules, but they got done by the SEC for selling shit coins, right? Binance were the king of shit coins.
Yeah.
They haven't got fined about shit coins at all. They've got done on KYC and AML. So they're just going down the list of laws and they're just finding one that each exchange may have infringed at some point and then using that as leverage to go, do you want life imprisonment or are you going to comply? And clearly the CEOs and boards are going, look, we'll comply. What do you want? And I'm pretty sure it's backdoors. It's control. We want to control this market. And essentially we want you to be an arm of the government. You're not a private company anymore.
Yeah.
You do what we say. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I do think there's going to be more, but it's almost, I don't think there's going to be a big win for like a Coinbase. I think Coinbase are already co-opted. Obviously, FTX was always a scam, so that's done. Binance is now co-opted.
I think there is
Maybe
going to
Kraken
be
next.
a consolidation in the marketplace, as in some acquisition. So exchange buys exchange, because I still feel like there's too many right now, and so the bigger ones will eat up the smaller ones, or the smaller ones will collapse. I think we don't have it on our stories or agenda this week, but Bittrex has decided to close its doors, and so I think we'll see that. And of course, going back to your point of having peer-to-peer exchanges, we used to have those or more of those, but then they died down. So I think we will see the cycle and the revolution of a new peer-to-peer exchange come back again, because that's the way that we need to win, essentially. I also saw a report in which I think it was around complaints and how people were complaining about being able to use certain services, and Monzo was at the highest, Monzo was the highest. No, they were lowest, but they were able to use crypto, basically. So the traditional banks like a NatWest or a Lloyd's, who don't allow you to use crypto, were seen as safe. And then those which were and do let you, they were like seen as, they're bad. And I was just like, I'd like to check into that a little bit further.
Yeah. That's yeah. What they need to do is have a chat with Jack Mallers, because our next story is him on Fox News, and
Mm.
he goes on a pretty epic 2 minute rant. Uh,
In Jack Mallers style.
yeah, he's so good at doing this. Like he's such a good like front man. He's so much better for me than Pomp. Like Pomp, I don't know. He's just dirty and slimy. Sometimes you can talk all right, but I just go. He slips into crypto, and whereas Jack is just fucking straight down the middle, and just going like, the young people. We don't trust the banks. They've gambled all the money. They're insolvent. The US government's gonna have to print trillions, like so much money, just to keep their corrupt, inefficient government and just huge Ponzi scheme going, that it's over. It's fucking over. Hyperinflation is coming, and Bitcoin's going to the moon. And I just love the way he delivers it. It comes across just so succinct. Uh, like these guys clearly want to argue against him. He's on the Fox Business Channel. They're not Bitcoiners. They're interested, but they kind of just want to listen to it about a price appreciation. And I think they quite often just see Bitcoin as its own asset over here. It's just like a stock. And Jack just brings it into, no, no, no. This is connected directly to the collapse of the US economy and the US printing machine and the banking failure. This is why Bitcoin will win, because as these fail, there'll be a flight to safety with these funds, and it will go into Bitcoin because it can't go anywhere else. If you put it anywhere else, you just lose it in a different way. So it has to go into Bitcoin, and we're going to the fucking moon. It's just obviously it's nothing new, but it's a new clip from Jack. It's a new interview from him, and it's just nice. It's just obviously at the beginning of a potential new bull run. It's nice to see him still orange pilling the masses.
And this is what it needs ultimately as well, because I just think back in if for the average layperson that may be watching Fox News to see this young, I think he's still under 30, delivering a speech like this in an empty walk-in wardrobe, like a crazy fool. But ultimately, it's like, oh, he was right.
Yeah.
Everything that he said was right, because it is quite, it's juxtaposing of this kid. He's not flashed. He's just telling it like it is, and he's probably going to stick in your mind if you've never seen him before.
Yeah.
And so when it does come true, you're going to be like, oh gosh, he was right.
Yeah.
I was right.
I do wonder whether there's a long-term like play with this huge walk-in like closet that he seems to be sat in. That's literally got it looks like almost like it's like an NBA's like dressing room, where it's like full of sneakers, as they would call it, and trainers in my world. But it looks like it's designed for someone that collects trainers, and you can just display them in this huge room. And there's not a single item of clothing on any of the wardrobe, or there's not a single trainer. And I don't know whether at some point, maybe when Bitcoin hits like 1 million, it's just going to be full of trainers at some point or something. I don't know whether that's like the long-term meme that he's going for, but I don't know who has a house that has clearly a closet this large and just is not using it at all. He only uses it to do his interviews on CNBC and Fox Business. But hey, I'm here for it. And I love them when they question him, just like, where are you? Why isn't there clothes in your closet? He just is what it is, man. He doesn't give an answer. He just goes,
no, he doesn't. No, I was going to say, yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, next story is so fees. So this is all obviously a lot's changed in a week. So this story is also a week old. It's from last week, but
yeah,
the fees on the Bitcoin blockchain last week were they were averaging well over $10. They were around $15 at various times, and turns out it was freaking these JPEGs, man. This time
And why were the fees high? Sorry.
because of the JPEGs, there was a new set of JPEGs. Right, so this is what was happening. Right, they're called the BRC 20 users,
Mm.
and for some insane reason, they're called the wizards, and they're basically redux, i.e., retards, and they were selling rare sats. So there's certain sats that came out of the blockchain on certain like round numbers and that early sats, and it's oh, but this sat is more than one, worth more than a sat. It's almost like
Yeah.
like the theory of like your registration plate. Like this registration plate looks nice, so you might want to buy it for more than the standard, right? And you just
Yeah.
go, okay, well, fine. Like if someone wants to pay more for their license plate, then fine, but you don't have to, do you? Because you can just shove it on. You get your registration plate for free, and it's the same
But the
with your
shiny
stats.
new pound coin that's still the same pound coin
Yeah,
value that all the others are, but it's just nice and shiny.
yeah. Or it might have, say, like if you had a pound coin that had a serial number of like 10001,
Yeah.
looks nice serial number, right? Technically, that pound is still worth £1.
Yeah, of
But
course.
there's an argument to say, well, the serial number is nice, so maybe I could get more than £1 for this. Which, look, I don't fucking want to argue against it. It's like whatever, right? It's a free market. Let people do whatever the fuck they want. But like a week ago, it's just insane, right? There's just like obviously there's so many stats, and they tried to create these NFT slash JPEGs of these rare sats, and people were buying them for insane amounts. Right? There was multiple Bitcoins worth of transactions happening, so much so that fees went well over $10 because the market was just being flooded with who wants to sell, or buy this sat that came out in this block at this time, and essentially the version of an ID number on a coin compared to like
Mm.
the transaction ID on a sat, and yeah, it's all going crazy. The good thing is, when we were going to cover this last week, it was like, when's this going to calm down? We're a week later. It's all gone away. It's a nothing burger. Yeah, it's a nice and quick hype cycle. Oh no, fees have gone to $15. Bitcoin's broken because of JPEGs again. Literally, I think it was 3 days later, fees were back down below $1, and you go, yeah, the idiots about their fun. And who knows how many of the transactions that, because there was millions and millions of transactions happening, right? I can almost guarantee the majority of those were completely fake, load of wash trading. These wizard guys, which is Udi and Eric Hall or Wall, or they're morons, right? They used to be Bitcoiners, now they've turned into shitcoiners. They hate the Bitcoin
uh,
maxis. I'd imagine the majority of this trading in their shitty rare sats was themselves trading the sats backwards and forwards, trying to pretend there's a market, trying to
mm.
bait in the normies to go, oh, look, if someone's buying that sat for one Bitcoin, then I'm going to buy this sat for one Bitcoin too, right? And
Mm.
like, dude, you're buying a sat for for 100 million sats. Stop it. Stop it. And I'm sure a couple of people fell for it, and maybe the guys that were running the scam ran off with some money, but it was all nice and short lived. It didn't really catch on, so that's nice because the danger of this stuff, I was going to say like last week, you just needs a Justin Bieber, a Snoop Dogg, a Floyd Mayweather, just to send out a tweet going, "Oh, I've
Yeah.
just bought Sat, 1,000,001 ever
Yeah.
for like 500,000," and you go, "Don't,
Off we
don't,
go.
because this is where that's what, like, you haven't, like, someone has paid for it on your behalf and then just sent it to you. So, and you've been paid 500,000, probably to say that you paid 500,000. Like, none of this is true, right? But it
Mm.
starts a snowball effect of these normies going, oh, for it's 500,000 for that one, I can get this one for 50 grand. That's so cheap. You're buying less than a cent's worth of Bitcoin for 50 grand. That is not cheap. And no one is buying that from you for more. Like, stop it.
I still think that we are in a world where there's not a lot of silly money still. So in that instance, I don't think that anybody would be coming back and saying something or using that. But as we talked about, cycles happen. And the cycle is no doubt due to come back round again because it's weird, but we've never actually talked about how the impact of FTX has affected people. It's just kind of, gone. People lost millions, if not billions, of course, individuals, but collectively it was billions. But on that exchange, I'm sure people will have lost money in Binance, although it's still there. But, ultimately, they had their own shitcoin attached to Binance. I don't even dare waste my time to look at where it was and where it is right now. But ultimately, people would have thought, yeah, this is going to be the next Bitcoin coin. No, it's not. It never was. So don't. But where is this new, fresh retail money going to come from? And then kind of plug into the next scam. Because don't get me wrong, there's another scam around the corner.
Oh, yeah. Of course there will be. Yeah. And as Jack says, the US government are going to be printing trillions.
Mm,
So some of that washes down into the people's hands at some point. And
yeah,
but as we know, there's going to be a very delicate balance on this one. It's not going to be like the furlough and the stimmy checks where
mm,
it genuinely is just free money in your hands. And a lot of this is going to be, oh yeah, it will stumble down into your hands, but you're going to be using that to live. Yeah,
yeah,
the amount of videos that I'm seeing over Twitter at the moment where people are just going out there, they're doing their hard day's work, they're going down to do their shopping, and they're paying the entire day's work of earnings on their food for the night, and they're going to a
mm,
supermarket. They're earning $100 in a day, and they're literally spending the $100 on groceries. You go, and because if you want to eat well, it's expensive, right? If you want to just
yeah,
get
yeah.
fast food and all that, then yeah, you can do it cheaper. But people are trying to live a little bit better, and so yeah, so the more videos like that we see, but yeah, there's always done money though, right? That's why I think
Always.
genuinely, I think it's one of the reasons why we're going 4 year cycles. I mean, people get wrecked. It takes them on average 4 years to build up some more wealth,
Yep.
and they just dump it back into a scam, get wrecked again.
Yep.
It's just rinse and repeat. But the new scam is like, oh, it's like the old one, but better. This time it's not a scam, and it's right. It's the same people fall for it, but it seems to be about 10% of them each time fall into Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So we gain 10% of them each time, but there's still a fuck ton of people falling into these scams. And
Oh, yeah. Fuck ton of people and a fuck ton of money that just goes and I think, wow, if you just read the Bitcoin Standard or any other, maybe even Lynn's Broken Money, I'm saying it partway through the book, but ultimately, that it's all there. It will all lay it out nice and simple.
yeah,
Right. Well, next story, if I look on the old agenda, is for us to cover Bitcoin mining operation being set up in Ethiopia. So this is an interesting one. So Bitcoiners in Ethiopia are excavating land to be used for Bitcoin mining. Now, Ethiopia, clearly no water, so is just simply based off the sun,
how do you mean?
solar energy.
Oh, to what to run it? Yeah. Well, they're going to
Yeah.
need cooling. So Ethiopia does have water, right? It hasn't got a lot of it. It could do
Hmm.
by a little bit more. Yeah. To be fair, I mean they do have some problems with droughts and things like that. But
Yeah, I've heard
yeah,
that
I've no
over
clue
the
how they're
years.
yeah, I've no clue how they're powering this mine. But yeah,
Yeah,
I stumbled across this guy called Kyle Kasser, and I assume he is Ethiopian himself because his literally all his bio says is Bitcoin for Ethiopia. So he seems to be super invested in the country, and yeah, they're digging out a load of land, and it's just good to see, right? Because we know these are the type of countries that are really ravaged by hyperinflation and fiat, and they're the countries that could really do with Bitcoin. And by building an actual mining facility there, it means that they're not just working and exchanging their time for fiat. They're actually building businesses that are going to be just sat there mining Bitcoin. And it's going to really start having those genuine sats just appearing in Ethiopia and
hmm,
into it. So yeah, it's great because obviously it adds hash power. Hash power again, all-time highs for Bitcoin.
correct.
It's a very good leading indicator. If anyone believes in any bollocks charts around periods and all that kind of stuff, which I fall into the trap. I've fucking plenty of times. I love to get a little bit bullish on a good old chart that confirms some of my biases. But one of the things that is definitely bullish, and I think it's undeniably bullish, is when the hash power of Bitcoin is at all-time highs. Because that means there's the most miners ever mining Bitcoin right now.
Hmm.
And miners are very expensive. They cost on average 5K a pop to run. And there's literally millions of these things running all around the world. There's people building them right now in Ethiopia. Why are these guys now trying to build a mining operation in Ethiopia when the hash power is already at all-time highs? The amount of Bitcoin you can get from a mining operation is at all-time lows because the competition is at all-time highs. They're still building. They're still spending significant funds. Not just like imagine the amount of money they're going to be spending on buying miners, excavating land, building a building, powering this thing, cooling this thing. They could have just bought some Bitcoin
Yeah.
and just sat back and watched the gains roll in anyway. But they want to go further than that. They want to add to the network and they want to have a sustainable, forever supply of Bitcoin just rolling in. They want to be spending their money on energy and converting it into sats for the long term to make an entire country potentially become, or have the ability to go onto a Bitcoin standard. So no, it's great seeing these types of stories just pop up from around the world and go, all right, there's another Bitcoiner. There's it's good, and there's a whole group of Bitcoiners here just popped up in Ethiopia building a Bitcoin mining operation. Why the fuck not, eh?
Bitcoin does consume my mind a lot, even now. Even all these years now, with everything going on, it still consumes my mind. And I thought, wow, the only thing that could really, really go wrong is Bitcoin going to zero right now, right? And I was like, but it won't. And I do feel like stories like this reinforce the fact that clearly it won't, because to your point, Bitcoin mining is expensive. But it's kind of like the elephant in the room, which no one really covers, or they're not intelligent enough to actually really understand Bitcoin itself. Because if the news outlets out there, and I talk about mainstream news outlets that are out there, really understood it, then they wouldn't ever dare to talk about the FUD that they talk about, because these companies are setting up and it costs, I'm sure, millions to do so within order to do it. Or at least, the planning, the timing, we are going to begin this Bitcoin mining excavation and start here with a view that we're going to get a return. And it's not just a day thing that they can switch something on and then, yeah, boom. No, if we're gonna build a mining factory of any sort, it's hard work. It takes time, and then to actually get blocks back to then recoup, you need a lot of hash power.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's quite a long-term ROI on any.
Yeah, but none of the
Imagine if the
outlets are
price of
talking about it.
Bitcoin rockets up as well whilst you're building this thing.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
let's say you spent £1 million on setting this thing up, and it takes you 6 months to get it sorted, and in that time,
Mm.
Bitcoin 10x's. That now technically cost you 10 million, and because you could have just bought Bitcoin with it, right? You could have just
Yeah,
converted the
yeah,
money
yeah,
straight
yeah,
into SAT.
yeah,
And
yeah.
so
You're
now
right.
it really is a really long-term commitment. And yeah, and you'll never see any mainstream show have hash power on the screen at any point,
No,
because it just completely wrecks all their bullshit models and FUD. Yeah, they don't want to show that. You know, the billions and billions of investment and belief that is globally understood. Bitcoin is all around the world. There's hundreds of millions of us at this point. As it says behind me, it's inevitable.
yeah,
We're just waiting to be proven right at this point. You know, Bitcoin's going to become the standard. It's just when, not if. And and hopefully we can stop shit houses like this. So we have a video from Ectolife, the world's first artificial womb facility. Now, back in the day, probably when I was maybe a kid, I'd have looked at this and gone, "Oh, this is cool."
I would have loved to seen Dr. Evil 10%'s face on this one, by the way.
Yeah, it's just yeah, it's literally like you'll live in the pod and be happy, right? It's This is literally like a scene from the Matrix.
Yep,
We've talked about how with the rise of various automation, maybe AI, maybe population control, they want us to essentially become in a pod and just, I don't know, be used for computing power, energy, who knows fucking what. But these little pods, an artificial womb, obviously they're designed to grow babies, right? So it's designed to essentially be a surrogate, and that they're estimating that this one facility could grow up to 30,000 babies a year, which is kind of nuts. And you see it, and it looks like a scene from the Matrix, right?
it
Where
does.
because the problem is, right, with this, like before I got freaking proper orange pilled, I'd gone, oh, this is fantastic, right? There's millions of women out there that can't have babies, that would be great mums and all this stuff. So this would be a great facility to go to, essentially give an egg and some sperm, grow it in a factory, and then give you a baby back. But my brain now just goes to, well, how can this go wrong? Do they let the baby out of the womb ever? Do they plug them
Mm-hmm.
into the fucking metaverse and show them some Facebook? And do we ever get out of this artificial womb? Is this? It just looks like some dystopian fucking horror show,
It,
and it's just there's certain parts of tech that I love, and there's certain parts of tech which I go that can go wrong very easily, and this is just right in that category. It's terrifying.
it reminded me of the Matrix stroke iRobot in terms of everything just all lined up and yeah, I it's a new realm, isn't it? But as we know, if it's been dreamt of and conceptualized, probably could happen and eventually will happen.
Yeah, it's what makes me nearly convinced. Down on the well, it's just further confirmation. I'm already convinced when Elon said that the odds on us being already in a simulation
Yeah,
is as close to certain as it can be. Because if we assume we're was it 65 billion years old, and we're probably within 50 years of creating a virtual reality slash metaverse version of the world that is indistinguishable from real life. We have to assume this is the first time we've ever got there. And then you start seeing stuff like this and you go, gee, we are so close to creating completely artificial life nearly out of nothing, potentially plugging it into a computer system where the thing, where that human being never opens its eyes, right? It could just be in some type of artificial womb forever, plugged into a virtual reality type thing. Like we are so close to that. Like I think almost undoubtedly, with if you fast forward 50, say 100 years, is that possible? I mean, it's nearly silly to say it wouldn't be. So, what are the odds on this being the first time we came round?
Mm.
And it's kind of terrifying to go, we are probably right now sat in one of those pods, plugged into a matrix, thinking that this Bitcoin thing is like going to be like the thing that takes over, and they're just laughing at us, going, "Oh, it would be if you were living in a real world." Like, but your sats ain't real. We could just unplug you at any point and just swish you down the drain, or like, reset this matrix and start it over again. Like, who
Oh
knows
yeah.
if? I really hope this is the first time round. I really hope that point naught naught one is.
It's mind blowing, and I know we record it late on a Tuesday night, but just thinking about it, remember obviously back in the day you used to have initially 4 channels and then 5 channels, and then cable came along, you might have got to 100 channels, then Sky came along and you got to maybe 500 or 1,000, some duplicates of course, and now we're in this decentralized world where you've got the combination of everything: terrestrial TV, satellite, and of course YouTube.
YouTube, yeah. Millions of channels.
Millions of channels. So we are just a channel that people in the future are watching. There's probably more Earths, as we know, in the galaxy, uh, just not our galaxy. And it's just one big channel to them. Hopefully they're plugged into the world's most bullish podcast, the 4Bs. But at the same time, yeah, it's a scary thought. As always, all of the stories that we cover are in the show notes and the links, but it's definitely one to look at. How did you link this to Bitcoin, by the way?
It was purely it's a loose link, really.
Yeah.
It's like kind of linked into the WEF, and you have nothing to be
Okay.
happy. I just saw this story and went, oh my god, this is
Cool.
it's almost like a Bitcoiner made it up as a meme, and you go, no, 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 this is real. You go, oh my god, like we can literally make babies in artificial wombs now, 30,000 a year. You're like, oh Jesus, like how long until we're in these pods ourselves? Because that's the thing. Like when everything links back to Bitcoin in the end, right? Because it's when the
Yeah.
money collapses and there's an uprising, they're going to need a way of controlling us and putting us in pods and just feeding us with tubes for a bit. And yeah, it's a tenuous link.
Okay.
It's just something I thought I saw it, and at the time it was a slow news week, so I left it on, and then we didn't do a pod anyway, so it's still listed on
All
there.
good.
But yeah, we've got American Hoddle, our next story, which a little bit of a controversial take from him, right? So he's going, if you think self-custody is so easy, you're straight up delusional. The esoteric and eccentric ass conversations I have with other Bitcoiners comparing notes on setups would sound straight up deranged if overheard by the non-initiated. And he goes on a bit of a tweet storm here where he's basically going, there's a bit of a meme going around in Bitcoin, which he disagrees with, which is keeping your Bitcoin self-custody is easy. He's going, no, it's not. And he lists some examples here where he goes, yeah, dog, so make sure you're out in the woods where there's plenty of tree canopy so satellites aren't a concern. White noise machine to mitigate that specific exfil attack. Because when you're generating your 24 words, technically, yeah, someone could be pointing a satellite at you and could take the 24 words off the device. And a way of mitigating that is, yeah, do it in the woods under tree covered. You could have white noise in the room to confuse any signal. And obviously this stuff, I kind of get what you're saying, but then at the same time I go, but it is kind of easy. uh, you really can go to the nth degree where if you think if someone is targeting you specifically and going, I
Mm,
know this person has Bitcoin and is about to generate some, seed words. Yes, I agree. They could get them because there's technology that exists that even though this device is not connected to the internet, they could point certain devices at you to sniff the electronic waves that that device is generating. They could get them. But the odds on this happening, right, is so fucking minute that in reality, like, come on. I think we can generate our 12 or 24 words on a hardware wallet. And of course, you shouldn't write them down on paper. We should be stamping them into steel. So that is the next step I would definitely recommend because obviously paper can erode, it can get wet, it can burn. Steel cannot, or it will survive all those conditions. But yeah, my reply to this thread was basically, well, yeah, like maybe it isn't easy. Maybe it does require a little bit of nous to figure out what hardware wallet to buy, to figure out what seed backup word thing to buy. But we're being our own bank here.
mm,
So of course that there should be a certain level of difficulty involved. If it wasn't difficult, you wouldn't respect the process, you wouldn't remember the process, and it probably means you're either going to forget the process or be relying on some third party to help you when you get it wrong. So, whilst I think this stuff will only get easier with time, I do think it's pretty easy today. And I've said before, this could be the best time to ever secure your Bitcoin because as we go forward, it could get more difficult because we're going to get more and more exchanges potentially get shut down and not let you take Bitcoin off. So you're going to have to go to peer-to-peer exchanges, which is going to add a level of difficulty now to buy Bitcoin in a peer-to-peer environment where getting your fiat onto these type of exchanges is more difficult. At the moment, you can just send your Bitcoin to pretty much any, or send your fiat to pretty much any exchange it for Bitcoin, and just send it to a
yeah,
hardware wallet. It's
yeah.
it really isn't very
I
difficult.
actually, I actually really fear for, yeah, like people in the fact that I think that they may create the narrative that one, clearly the exchange is the best place for you to keep your Bitcoin on, and equally uh, over egg and emphasize the hard going if you were to do it yourself. And so they're like, no, don't do that, don't do that. You don't want to do that, and all the scaremongering tactics that they can think of under the sun to ensure that you keep your Bitcoin on the exchange.
Oh yeah, there'll definitely be a lot of that. But I think American Hodl here, he has good incentives. I think he's just going, taking self custody of your Bitcoin basically isn't easy, and we should
No.
be more honest with it. But I just fundamentally disagree. And I go, it's not easy, but I wouldn't put it in the hard category either. I think you just got to be like how much effort do you want to put into securing generational wealth for your family? Yeah. Are you willing to put in probably a week's worth of learning, a couple of hours setting up hardware wallets, stamping some steel words, and then just hiding them securely? Is that too much? I agree it's not easy, and the average person is going to be quite shocked that they have to do stuff like that. But I think that's part of the journey into Bitcoin, right? You've got to learn that you know all the safety measures the bank says that they put in place for you, which is why when inflation is 10%, they'll give you 3% on your money. You know, when that 7% they're taking, that huge
Mm,
fee, which basically means that the longer you keep your money in there, the less it's worth, because even though it's going up in denomination, it's going down in spending power. In exchange for that, they give you this level of security and stuff. And and to be fair, like banks are impressive buildings. Like when there was gold in there, they used to guard it pretty well. Plenty of bank robberies, admittedly, but I'd rather they be robbing the bank than robbing me. So fair enough. But so when you bring that locally, and everyone starts holding their Bitcoin locally, then yeah, of course, then we need to replace the bank vault that used to keep our gold in there. We're creating our own bank vault at home. And yeah, it requires some work. It requires some thought. So whilst maybe I do agree. Maybe I do agree that it shouldn't be pitched as easy. It should be pitched as a bit of a journey. But it's a worthwhile journey. Like this is something that I would push that we should learn in primary school. That kids should learn, like, this is part of money. This is how you secure your money. Bitcoin is money. This is a hardware wallet. These are seed words. This is a safe. These are how you put these things together. First thing you learn, you start any money, save it to this, put it in here, da, da, da. And then it's
a
just
classic thing where you give a kid a hard problem and they become more inventive than any adult would ever think of, and they'd be like, wow. And they'd obviously find it very fun as well.
Yeah, and the thing is, I'm not even sure how much room for innovation on top of that there is. I think they would just go, all right. I think they just go, okay. And then they just go, what's next? What's next, Dad? Oh, we'll do geography. Let's learn some countries. It would just be they're very technically adept, right? And it's just, I honestly don't think it's that difficult. It only seems hard because we're used to banking being so easy. And the reason it's easy is because they're fucking robbing you, right? So if you want to not be robbed, you got to do some work. And this is the work. So yeah, I don't really know who's even talking to, because I'm not sure how many people have said that holding your Bitcoin is easy, is for everyone. Because right now I completely agree. It's not necessarily for everyone. Like, Jesus, I see some random TikToks and Snapchats and tweets from people that clearly can't even pour some cereal up for themselves, never mind self-custody their Bitcoin. But I think if you've got a relatively good IQ level, I don't see there's any. We've all done it, right? And I think I agree. It's scary because of sometimes the amount of money involved. But if you were just trying to secure like £10 worth of Bitcoin, and the hardware wallet was just given to you, and the seed words were kind of, the steel was given to you, I think you just do it without even blinking, right? You wouldn't barely need any guides. You just do it, wouldn't you? It's almost like being on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and you're being asked $1 million question, right? It's fucking really scary because the stakes are so high.
Yep.
Whereas if you're on the $1,000 question, you go, oh right, well, I just fucking YOLO, I see, whatever. You don't really care whether you win or lose. But yeah, I think that's where the scariness comes in, because I think for most people, I mean, everyone's virtually the same. No one starts in hardware wallets and seed word storage.
No.
You start on exchanges.
You start an exchange.
And then you start building it up and you go, oh shit, I've got an amount of money on here now that I'd be really sad to lose. And that's when you start down your hardware journey. And then you go, oh, I've got to send this now to myself. And if I fuck this up, there's no support email or phone number to call. It's all on me. And that is scary. So I agree that's the scary bit, because the amount of money involved. The process itself is piss easy. But when there's large amounts of money involved, you're just worried that you mess it up. And there's plenty of stories of people messing up.
Typically the length of the address and going through it letter by letter. Was that a capital? Was that a lowercase, etc.? Putting that all in. Yeah, it is. It's up there for sure. One thing I wanted to well, two things actually that I wanted to throw in. Javier Milei, Argentina's new president. I
Mm,
thought that he was out of the race, and then it came out of the blue. No, he's the new Argentine president.
yep.
So let's watch this space and let's see if Argentina return back to hard money.
Or not.
And the second, which is Charlie Munger at 99, has passed away. So not a Bitcoiner, not very passionate about Bitcoin, but still, I think there's a place in everybody's heart who is an investor from some of the lessons that could be learned and can be learned from Charlie Munger after his 99 years of wisdom.
Yeah, well, I tweeted an hour ago. Munger's legacy will be calling Bitcoin rat poison squared. Good riddance. And as for the Argentine new prime minister, he's already been seen having meals with very high up Jews in Israel, and also having a meal with Bill Clinton and the IMF. And he's also just put into policy that he is going to take Argentina off the Argentinian money, and he's going to put
Mm.
them onto a
Oh,
US dollar standard. So
slowly but surely. Does he run it from Argentinian money to dollar and Bitcoin to
no,
then
no
offer the
Bitcoin, no Bitcoin. Just putting
pun?
them on the US dollar.
Mm.
He is controlled opposition. He he put on a. He looks so fucking crazy, right? That it looks like maybe he is legit. Maybe he is legit trying to tear down government organizations. But I've literally tonight seen him with having dinner with the head of the IMF, Bill Clinton, and then it was yesterday I saw him having dinner with his top funders. Apparently, that was some Israel Jewish guys, and you go, it's the same guys that are attached to all these politicians. It's the same people that claim to be different. Sometimes they come in these nice clean packages. Like we have Rishi, we have
Mm.
Trudeau, yeah, we have whatever that New Zealand freaking Gollum woman
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
They're the nice, clean cut, well spoken packages. But then we have the Boris Johnsons, we have the Trumps, we have the Millie kind of guys that are just fucking nuts, right? They fucking shout stuff, they're gonna tear stuff down. But really, like what happens behind the scenes? It's the same people pulling the strings. Yeah. So
Yeah.
they go out there and they go, we're gonna finish this, we're gonna pull down that. Okay, well, I will happily be proven wrong on this one. If Argentina actually fix their fucking economy, move on to some kind of form of Bitcoin standard, he genuinely does tear down some of the huge. Because I'm sure, I know it wasn't that guy, was it? It's someone else that said that they were going to cut down their government literally by just looking at the social security number
That
and
was it.
everything.
Yeah, someone else.
That
Someone
was
else.
Vivek. That was Vivek
Yeah.
in the US, yeah. But there's a number of things that he said. So let's see if he does it. But I have a very sneaky suspicion that it's an absolute crock of shit and just another controlled opposition. And yeah, nothing will change. Um,
Right.
last story.
That story kind of threw us off there in terms of it. Oh, my agenda's just gone. Do you mind reading it out?
Yeah, no worries. So this is from Parnam. So this is he's just got it's just a little bit of a meme to finish off the day, really. So Parnam's wife, how come he hasn't called you about Bitcoin lately? And he replies, I don't know, but he's not in it for the right reasons anyway. He only wants to get rich. Wife, wait, what are you in it for then? Parnam, the revolution, and it's we. The wife just says, what? So I think this is a conversation probably a lot of us like married Bitcoiners can, or like long-term partners can resonate with. It's just like, we've got like some kind of person that wants to get into Bitcoin at some point, but maybe they haven't called you yet. And it's kind of a contact through the missus. So and they called you about Bitcoin recently, and you're like, oh no, but he only wants to get rich anyway, so fuck that guy. And she's like, what the
Mm.
hell? I thought we were in it to get rich. So we're in it for the revolution. And she's like, oh shit. And yeah, it's that's why we're here. We're not in here just to get rich. Like, obviously, why not both is the classic meme reply to this, because the good thing is we win the revolution, we get rich. It's a nice side effect. But yeah, we're not you don't buy Bitcoin to sell it at 100K, 200K. You buy Bitcoin because fiat's going to fucking zero. You're gonna lose everything.
Yeah.
So if you're not in Bitcoin, you're not going to have any wealth to carry on with. So, in the evolution of money from fiat into Bitcoin, like you buy your sats now before the 8 billion people on the planet start buying them. That's why we're buying. And yeah, once the full kind of global community have figured that out and we're on a Bitcoin standard, then yeah, of course we go back to just a stable Bitcoin price, and we just people spend
Yeah,
their
it's not
sats like
really
they spend their
something that's
fiat.
ever spoken about outside of a true Bitcoin circle, though, is it? Of getting there. This is a foot race, a
Yeah,
digital foot race, and you get there before others just by simply being in the know. And more people know about Bitcoin than, any day, month, week, year before we are right now. But yet, there are still people out there that are hesitant, believe it's, a Ponzi scheme and all of the rest of it. But, don't buy at your peril, ultimately.
yeah. I'm still pretty sure it's around that $100 mark or so.
Mm.
You can get your
And
allocation of Bitcoin. If you do the
yeah,
8.8 billion people divided by the 21 million, I don't know what the latest stats are. I think the last time we did it, it was about $30 to $40. The price has pretty much doubled since then. So
yeah.
I'd imagine it's $60 to $80. You can
Well, we did
literally
a
get
pod on it, didn't we? Didn't we say 69? $69 or something, or 69
69.
pounds?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was
And maybe,
definitely 69.
yeah. Basically, it's a trivial amount of dollars that you could convert to get your fair allocation of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And if you want to double that allocation, just buy double. If you want to 10x it, buy 10x. And basically what that means is if you 10x it, that means there's 9 people on the planet that are gonna not be able to have their allocation of Bitcoin to that level. They're gonna have to buy much less Bitcoin for far more value.
Mm.
So, you get Bitcoin at the price you deserve. It's sat there, anyone can buy it. It's been on sale for fucking, was it 15 years now? So
that's
it's there,
that's
it's
the one.
waiting. And it's so easy to buy right now. This is literally the golden era. It's literally this is the equivalent of being in the gold rush where all the railway lines have been laid. You can just jump on a train, go along. They hand you a shovel, and you just start digging, and you just start hitting golden nuggets. It's just right fucking there. Like, it's just easy because you're so early, but the infrastructure's already been put in. Like
Yeah.
the pioneers were the ones that had to find where the gold deposits were. They had to put the train like track in. All that hard work's been done. The exchange has been built. The hardware wallet's been built. The seed word stuff has been built. Everything like the podcasts have been built. The books have been written. Everything's been done for you, and it's getting to a point where it's so easy that this infrastructure is going to start getting compromised. Yeah, as in the government's going to start knocking the trains off the tracks. They're going to start hiding all the shovels. Yeah, they're going to stop. They're going to do trains that go one way. It's that's when it's
I
going to
think
start
it's
getting
so
difficult.
easy that people therefore think, okay, that's going to be a scam, and use the human instinct of trust to be like, no, I trust not to do that.
Sorry, run that past me again.
Yeah. So is it so easy right now that people don't think, well, they just obviously go on the whole exchange route, uh, and think, yeah, I'm not gonna take self custody. I'm not gonna obviously buy into Bitcoin. It's still a
Mm,
scam,
mm,
and therefore I'm not going to do it because it seems too good to be true.
mm. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Yeah, there is so many places to buy Bitcoin now.
Mm,
And the problem is, and they're so usually attached to shitcoin as well,
mm,
that I think that close proximity to genuine scams doesn't
yep.
help it. And yeah, yeah. I think, and I think even in the gold rush, people would have been almost jumping on the train, going along, digging up some gold, and just leaving it on the ground and coming back, almost going,
Yeah.
it's too good to be true. It can't be valuable.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
you fast forward 50 years, and just having one tiny coin would have
Yep.
been worth a house. And it's like, we're in the golden era. The Bitcoin is plentiful and the access is easy. And yeah, you can turn your nose up at that because, like we said, it's still not easy. Yeah,
Mm,
it's still quite tough to take self custody of your own Bitcoin. But this is the best period that we could ever be in. So the price is cheap. The ability to get your Bitcoin and get it on self custody is relatively easy. It's not illegal because I genuinely think there's going to be a future where what we are doing today is going to be classed as illegal. They're going to call us
same.
money launderers, far right extremists, bigots, terrorists. They're going to call us every name under the sun just for holding Bitcoin in self custody.
Yep. And
So
I mean, we've got 121 podcasts for them to use against us in a court of law.
yeah, but the good thing is right now it's not illegal.
No.
And the day it becomes illegal in here, then is probably the day that I move to El Salvador, where it is not
Mm,
illegal. So
you're
I think we're
right.
done, boy.
We are done. Okay, well, that was another episode brought to you by the four Bs, Ebony and Ivory, Mr. Allin, aka the Trillion Dollar Man, myself, so never look, aka the People's Champ. No, I'm not the People's Champ, I'm the Excellence of Execution. The People's Champ is taking a break again, and hasn't even turned up, giving us a sick note. So, Dr. Evil 10%, we do expect you to be on next week's pod. Bright and breezy, ready for another one. And Mrs. No Show, we do expect you to not show once again, because that's why you are Mrs. No Show. Peace.